Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who are brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Coast Podcast. My name's Emily Given, and I own a virtual assistant agency outside of Seattle, Washington.
And my name is Whitney Popa. I own a communications consultancy in Edmonds, and today we have the pleasure of being with my cousin, Chandler Harrelson, who owns Sugar Co. Seattle. And as her dad said at her wedding last year, and Emily made fun of me for double checking with Chandler how to pronounce her new last name, entrepreneurship runs in our family. So this is the first family member I think I've had here, and it had to be you, Chandler.
Yes. Hello.
We're so excited to have you and talk about your business, which our grandma does not understand and does not like, and tells all of her friends tells us that she's not telling any of her friends what you do for a living. So why don't you start there and tell us what Sugar Co. Seattle is and does?
Yeah. So basically at Sugar Co. Seattle, I'm a sugarist. I'm a licensed esthetician. Basically sugaring is a different form of waxing. So it's a hair removal service I do. Sugaring is lemon sugar water mixed together as a paste and basically rips all your hair out. So I do Brazilians all day.
And it's super eco and like better for your skin and all those things, which is great. Like sugar's been having a moment for a while, but I feel like still not enough people know about it.
Yeah, everyone is still all about the waxing, which I don't understand because it's so bad for your skin. Like, it's so irritating. It doesn't rip it out by the roots. It's honestly, like, it's kind of dirty. I feel like it's like people double dip with the sticks, like at hair or nail salons. I don't know if you guys ever have you guys ever got your brows done at a hair or a nail salon? They do not.
Yes.
They don't wear gloves. They double dip. They do all that gross stuff. But I mean, not all salons do that, obviously, but it's just a way cleaner, super good for the environment, not wasting a bunch of product. Literally all I use is just my tub of sugar and gloves. That's all I use. So
Do you make it yourself?
no, I have a supplier that I used. Tamara Sugar.
But you can make it yourself.
You can, but it's, how you make caramel on the stove, like with sugar and I guess water, and you make it so it gets super thick. Some people can make it, but it's super hard because you have to have certain consistencies. And I've tried to make it myself, but I've burned it. So, but I mean, you could, but I would not do that myself.
I want to get into our family and kind of what led you here. So what's so exciting for me, and I try to not be this person, but since I've known Chandler her whole life, I feel like this was kind of a destined path for you just based on how our family is. Like, we are very, I don't know how you would describe us, Chandler, very open to talking about bodily functions generally, a lot of fun. She grew up on our family's ranch, like this town that Chandler grew up in. Our family homesteaded 6 generations ago. It's super tiny. She grew up in the house that our grandfather grew up in with his 6 siblings, and they're not shy about talking about bodies, about talking about bodily functions, about talking about hair, and even Chandler's whole life talking about her hair. She has very curly, wild hair and grew up with all these animals and saw cows being birthed constantly. Even her dad invited himself to my births of my children, which upset Chandler because she was like, you didn't even come to my own birth. And then you're trying to be in the room with Whitney and like pull out her son. I was like, Dave, I am not a cow. But what's so funny about all of this is like, I just like this path makes sense for you. And I'm curious, like, if you knew growing up, like, I'm not trying to have like a desk job. I can't see most people in Waterville like having desk jobs, first of all. But even just like what's interesting, our family's like super into bodies and bodily functions and all these things, which are like actually really inappropriate in a lot of ways. But then also like really pushy about like traditional education, even though they're all kind of entrepreneurs. So it's this crazy like mind fuck. And I wonder like what that was like for you and how you came to this conclusion of like, I think I'm going to go be an esthetician.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so growing up in Waterville, like, I feel like it was all the families there are very much like, you go to high school, you probably go to college, and then you come back to Waterville and you like take over the family farm or that's just like kind of what you do in Waterville, I guess. For me though, I was never a school person, like at all. I did not try in high school. I tried to go to community college, but I was like, there's just nothing here for me. So I never even really knew what I wanted to do growing up. Like I've always wanted to do something creative, I guess. Like I was always into like the art classes and like the like leadership classes. I was super into ASB, just so like holding events and just doing creative things. And I don't know, even when I tried to go to college, I came back and I worked in retail for a long time. I did like visual merchandising was my big thing. I worked at Pier 1 for like 6 years. But even that, I'm like, I just didn't want a job where I just, didn't like, I liked it, but I just felt it didn't fulfill me, I suppose. So I don't know. I've always thought about going to like cosmetology school, but I didn't want to do hair. I thought that's the only thing that you could do. I didn't realize like skincare stuff really wasn't a big like topic at the time, I guess. So I was like, I don't really want to do hair. And then I found out that you could go to do esthetician stuff. And I've always loved like, well, Whitney, I've always been into like Dr. Pimple Popper, and I love like ingrown hairs and all of that kind of stuff. So once I found out
love Dr. Pimple Popper.
Oh my God,
so
I love it. So I actually just binge watched the last 2 seasons on Discovery Plus because I haven't seen any of them. So I just did that for the last 2 days. But yeah, I didn't realize that there was a school for that. So I found out that I could go be an esthetician, and I did that. And I originally went to do facials, but then I really got into waxing. But I was getting sugared like before esthetician school, so I already kind of knew the differences between wax and sugar. So once I was like, oh shit, I can learn how to sugar instead of wax. So after school, I jumped basically like right into sugaring. So, but yeah, I just always knew that I always hated working for other people. I've always kind of been like, I liked the more being in charge of things. So yeah, that's just kind of how I went about that.
What's interesting too is like our family is full of a bunch of haters. Like you think they hate what you're choosing to do with your life, and then you're at like, this is a real story. Then you're at Thanksgiving dinner. We're all together. It's loud. It's chaotic. There's a lot of wine being flung everywhere. And like Chandler's dad, my Uncle Dave, my mom's younger brother, and Papa are parading around talking about how amazing it is that Chandler waxes nose hairs. And then Chandler is getting out, like, this is our Thanksgiving dinner. And here Chandler is like, let me get out my table and I'm going to wax your nose hairs. Because Dave's just going on and on about how it like helps him so much.
Yeah,
at Thanksgiving.
The night before I had a wax pot, and I was like telling my dad, I was like, oh, like I sugar or not sugar. You can wax nose hairs. And I don't, like your dads always have like hairs to get out of their nose. And I'm like, Dad, I feel like you would really like this. And of course he's like, no, no, no. But then I did it. And when I stuck it up in his nose and pulled it, he was like, oh my God, I can breathe so much better. This is the best. So the next day was Thanksgiving. And then he told like Papa and all of our uncles and everyone that I did that. And so it just intrigued everybody. And then we had a waxing party.
Yeah. And now you have to tell the audience what Papa did after you waxed him the first round.
Oh, okay. So when he stuck it in his ear, or what part?
Well, he
did a lot of things.
It wasn't enough for him.
Oh,
yeah. So Papa he retired just a couple of years ago from being a periodontist, and he's probably the most into bodily functions in our whole family. And he told Chandler that's not enough. Then he took the stick because Chandler was like, I'm not going further in your nose.
Yes.
And he took it and he did
true.
it himself because Chandler, and then I was with him this weekend and I was looking at his nose hairs and he needs you.
Well, remember when he did that and the nose hair he pulled out was like literally that long and it was white and it like came from his brain. Remember? We were all dying.
No.
Yeah, I remember that.
No.
Oh,
then,
yeah. God.
Yeah. And all of us were like, oh my God. But then I remember he's like, I really want you to like do my ears. And I was like, no, I'm not. Ears, I feel like that's not part of I don't know. I'm like, I don't feel like I should put that in your ears. Like, that's not my thing, And he's like, okay, come on, just do it. And I was like, no, Papa, I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with that. Well, I'm like sugaring or waxing somebody, and I turn around and look, and Papa puts the stick. He was like in the corner putting a stick into the wax, and I just saw him slowly shove a thing of wax in his ear. So we ended up having to wax his ear hair, but yeah.
And this is like at a ranch in the middle of nowhere, just a lot of things going on. Like, it's always been just, that is normal for us. Like, just a big wax party with Papa yelling at everybody because Chandler didn't go deep enough in his nose, ear, etc. And
do you video these interactions?
I do.
I feel like you should. Yeah.
I sent it to Chandler because my phone got overloaded. I was like, I'm not paying Apple more for storage. And then I was going through all my videos and deleting them all. And I texted one to Chandler and I was like, I'm never deleting this.
Yeah, I think that video you
and
sent
everyone
me
loved it.
Is when he pulled out that like 5-inch nose hair. I'm pretty sure that was that video you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's into it. She's into it. Like, we're sitting there investigating it. Like, nothing is weird or gross or off limits, really, except for Chandler's mom's vagina, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, let's just
not my mom's, but Chandler's.
Let's just okay, my mom gets offended because sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this, your vagina is not gross. I'm just saying, I will sugar anybody, but for some reason, I just can't with my mom. Like, is that weird? I don't know. I feel like she's really,
well, I would never.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't sugar my mom. I can't give you a Brazilian. I'm really sorry. Like, love you, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm probably the biggest prude in the family because I am like, do not do my mom. I can't think about doing my mom. I didn't even, like, in college, during all the mom's weekends and everything, I was like, we are not going anywhere. We are not going out. We are not partying. That is not what we do together. This is like too much for me. So the fact that you'll even have that conversation, I would just have cut it off with my mom. What I loved about your sugar training, though, is that you lived with us. And that's when Oliver was like a little toddler.
Yeah.
And every day so it was like this 3-week training. We would be waiting for Chandler to come home to tell us the stories of like all the things that you learned during your sugaring training, who you saw. We really wanted it to be a penis every time.
Okay, let's talk about, you do manzillions though, right? Like
Yes.
that's what you call them, manzillions.
Yeah, manzillions,
Like,
yeah.
and I mean, like, isn't it, I don't know, isn't it weird? I don't know. I mean, it's not weird because like you're a professional,
No,
but
okay.
I don't know. Is it?
The only thing that's weird is if they come in like already being a creeper. That's the only like weird experiences like I've had doing mail services. My very first day at
Then do you tell them to get the hell out?
Yeah, so my very first day at my like original job where I was sugaring at first before I opened my own business, my very first day on the floor was a manzillion, and he immediately came in like had a huge boner, and then he was telling me, he's like, I would just really like it. I'm like, starting to do my thing, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really like nerve-wracking. But he was like, oh, I want you to like keep touching me right there. And I was just like, luckily my manager was there at the time, so I was like, let me just get my manager really quick, and she told him like, you gotta hit the road. But other than that, like, no, it's not weird unless they come in like ready to be weird,
So at Sugar Plum, you had a whole kind of marching orders of how you handled somebody coming in with a boner.
Yes. So basically, if they had, obviously like men get boners, so it's just a thing. Usually you can make it go away by sugaring over and over like a little, we call it the horseshoe of hell. It's like, like the little hood kind of like on your, like where you're like there's like the little hood and then your labia lips.
Yes. Oh my god, it hurts so bad. Like the chop. Holy crap.
Yes.
I'm like, just leave it. It's fine.
Yeah. So that area, I would just like sugar that over and over and over again, and then it would just slowly go away. But I mean, which that's fine. Obviously, like if they have a boner and it like won't go away, that's kind of where I'm like, hey man, like maybe you should like come back the next day, take a break, because you shouldn't sugar.
Right, that would hurt.
With boners.
Or like you wouldn't get the full effect or something.
Wait, do you sugar the actual shaft? Like what anatomy are we sugar?
What? People don't have hair down. They do?
Yeah. I mean, some people do.
I have never seen a hairy dick. I will just say,
Well, like, they hide in the fold, I guess, when it's soft. But yeah, no, people
this
have
is so educational.
hair on their, people do have hair on their wieners. So, but also like, but also the problem with sugaring a boner is like the skin gets really hot. So then it melts my sugar and it's really hard to work with it.
Dick is too hot.
I'm learning so much. Yeah, because the blood flow, that makes...
Yeah, because there's so much blood and it's hot. And yeah, so if it's not like under control, that's like, let's like take a minute, maybe come back the next day. But other than that, it goes away pretty quickly.
I thought that you were just like sugaring hair on the pube part, and so I was like, do you like tape the penis or something? Like, do you like put it out of the way? Because
they
used to
do it themselves. This is why
we
loved when Chandler was living with us, because there's so many questions.
Yeah,
no, I sugar everything, like balls, penis, butt, all of it.
Okay, balls are
sensitive. They pull their own skin, right?
Oh, okay, good. You don't have to like bat wing it out or whatever.
I pull it. I do everything. People try to like help me. I'm like, just get your hands out of the way. Let me do it. Like, things are stretchy down there. So,
yeah, I know that.
You just stretch it out and it's all good. And yeah,
do they cry?
That's a manzillion. No, I mean, sometimes, but not I don't have any
Roz
criers.
is a screamer. And Chandler really wants to do Roz.
His manzillion.
Well, so when you started your business, he was very excited to read your price guide. And he thought he had so many jokes to make about it because he said, you should be charging by the inch, Chandler, like trying to say that, it's going to cost more for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the pricing on your end was very much like, I'm going to price the shit out of this because I don't want to do new wieners.
Well, yeah, not only that, but it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of like Brazilians is so easy for me just because I do like 20 of those a day. And it's just, but like with balls, you gotta really like stretch it this way, stretch it this way, stretch it this way, underneath. Like you gotta get in there. And I'm just using one finger and like flicking every single little inch of all of that. So it's a lot of work. So that's why I price it so like a little bit higher than a regular Brazilian. So.
How much time does that take? Usually.
It depends on if they're like a new client or, I mean, I would say I can get a manzillion done in like 25 minutes.
Dang.
But it just kind of depends on like their hair, how much of a wimp people are, all that. But like regular Brazilians, I have 10 minutes, like nothing.
10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm coming to see you.
Yeah, I'm pretty fast.
And her shop is cool, really cute.
Yeah, but I usually book out services for a good like 30 minutes just because obviously like I'm a super detailed person. Like I have to make sure I get every single thing. But yeah, usually it takes me about 10 minutes to do a full Brazilian.
Can you talk to us about Dave and the conversation that you had? So just a little background. I've mentioned this maybe once or twice on the podcast. At our wedding, Roz's friends thought that we hired a cowboy for our wedding because Chandler's mom, who is extremely talented and very artistic, she's a caterer, she cooks, she is like the Martha Stewart of Waterville, and like Waterville's full of Martha Stewarts. And she helped decorate our entire wedding. And part of that was like hay bale bowls that you can rope. And so all of Roz's Gonzaga friends who think they're from the country but aren't, were trying to rope these bowls. And Dave was getting so stressed out because he is an actual cowboy. And he was like, no, let me go show these people how it's done. And then after the fact, they were like, that was a really nice touch at your wedding that you hired this cowboy. And everybody was like, Roz was like, that's Whitney's uncle. So Chandler's dad, who brought his own beers in the back of his truck because our beers were like too nice. He only wants Coors Light. I can't imagine what this conversation was when you're like, Dad, this is my life choice. Either he was just like all in because he's just not a prude, or he had some questions. Like, what was that like?
I mean, I still don't really think he like quite understands what it is I do. And I don't think he's really like, I think he's kind of like, whatever. Honestly, like he's never, I mean, he asked me, he's like, oh, like, do you sugar men? Like, cause he, you know how he is. But other than that, like, he really hasn't much to say about like what I actually do, but I think he's really into the fact that I own my own business now. That's mainly the thing that he's most excited about, I feel like. So
yeah, he's like, I'm going to focus on this part.
Yeah.
And he is like a beautiful contradiction. Like he's super into Justin Bieber and like celebs.
Yes. He knows all about the Kardashians. Yes.
Like, yes. I always remind people, like, we're not all one note. And Dave is like a perfect example of that because he like presents a certain way, but he is also like so brilliant, was like valedictorian, class president, into the Kardashians, and also like runs cows. And that's who he is and what he does, and has a piece of chew in his mouth. And he is just Dave. Like, he is the perfect example of our family, kind of like a caricature of a person.
Yes. one of a kind.
So are your parents still in Waterville, or like when did you leave Waterville?
So I left Waterville like literally right when I graduated high school in 2012. I tried to go to community college in Edmonds just because because like I said, like it was kind of just I felt like you kind of had to go to college after you graduated high school. Like that's just like what you did. So I went to Edmonds Community College for a year-ish, but not really. And then, yeah, I actually moved back home and I started working at Pier 1 for like 6 years. And then after that, I kind of like moved back and forth from Waterville back to over to Western Washington just because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. There's just, and then when I moved back over here for school, that's when I decided that I was going to just stay here, do sugaring, just because there isn't any of that stuff in Waterville. So I think I've like been here now for at least 5 years. But yeah, and I don't know, my mom's from Seattle, so I've always came over here as a little kid, and I was like, I know I'm gonna live here when I'm older. Like that's just what I'm gonna do. So I really had no interest in living in Waterville for the rest of my life. So
well, imagine being like sugaring the town. I was actually just talking to my friends who I walk with on Tuesdays, and from our house there to Grandma and Papa's, we walk like these back blocks to get there. It takes like 5 minutes. And because there's so much freedom in Waterville, I hope there's not a police officer listening to this, but like the kids like to ride in the front seat with Roz. And when they're not riding in their car seats, then there's nowhere for me to say, I'm not going to sit in their car seats. So I just walk home. It takes like a couple minutes and I prefer to walk anyway. So I walk down the street and then Roz was following me in the truck and he would like, try to hit on me or whatever. Like, how are you doing? Good looking or whatever. And the kids are in the seat like, look at us, we're so free. And then yesterday I was walking home and I got more of a head start. And this guy in his camo shirt and very tan or overburnt comes out of his house and he's like, are you the one who's been walking down the street with the truck following you? Is he harassing you?
Oh my gosh,
really?
that's so sweet.
Wait, in Waterville?
Yeah, like 5 houses, where the back side of Grandma and Papa's house is? It's like the house on the end of that street, like across from the lady whose house is always really decorated cute with like things on her fence and everything. I don't know what the name of that street is, but yeah, he like made a point. His dog ran out. He was like, had to stop me to make sure that I was okay. And like,
I love that.
I love it.
That's so funny
as well. And Roz was like, he's trying to pick you up. Like, and I was like, you and this guy are both trying to pick me up. But I couldn't really make a joke. Like, yes, he is harassing me. Also, he's my husband because I didn't know who he was going to go talk to and who he knows. But like, that's how the town is. Like, Chandler's not going to go home and like have people know that she sugars because then she knows what everybody's, inside parts look like. And it's too small of a town for that. It's like, wait.
Oh God, yeah. It's like when I worked at the bank for a hot minute in Waterville, I like knew everyone's finances,
Yeah. And I don't know that guy's name, but I'm sure you do. And it was hilarious. Like, he was really concerned for my safety. And what that reminded me of is like, everybody's watching, everybody's talking, everybody knows. Like, it is so wild there. And
yeah, try like being a high schooler there and like everyone knowing your business. Like, you couldn't even party there because the school would find out like the next day and you would get kicked off like the sports teams, like everything. So you had to be very low key if you were to party and do all that stuff.
Yeah, my mom said that my grandparents would get the phone call before she was even like around the corner if she was speeding.
Yeah. Yep.
How many people were in your graduating class?
21.
Oh
yeah,
my
21.
God.
How many were in yours, Emily?
Like over 200.
Yeah, there was like, I think 200 kids in my whole school from K through 12. Like, that's how many kids were in the whole entire school. Yeah. super small.
And it also like is hard to leave. Like it creates this environment where you're very protected. So for you to be able to leave, even though you came back a few times to like figure it out, you're like, I know I'm going to leave eventually. And I think it's like really admirable. I think it's great for people who want to be there and everything, but it is its own bubble that's very protective. And there's certainly pros to that. But like coming out, like at Edmonds Community College, Chandler was getting a whole mix of people she'd never seen before in her life, like in her dorm and the foods that they cooked and the like their cultures. I think it was probably a huge culture shock.
Yeah. One of my roommates, I think she was from somewhere in Japan. So I opened up the refrigerator and it was like a jar this big full of like, I think it was kimchi, but I've never seen kimchi before. So when I opened up the fridge, I was like, ah! Like, what is that? So yeah, it was culture shock for sure.
I've never been from a small town, but what I'm picturing is like, do you remember that movie, Sweet Home Alabama? Like that town.
Yes, it's literally what it is. Yes.
I love it so much. And you said you just got married?
I did.
Did you
September.
Did you meet your person in Waterville or here?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, over here.
You're like, we went to kindergarten
Yeah, it's
together.
a little too inbred.
Yes,
You're
like-
probably related to someone in
Yes,
Waterville.
I know. Probably related to, there's probably like maybe like 3 kids in my class that I'm not related to somehow. But no, I met him over here.
And his family's from this side as well,
Yeah, he's from Covington.
which makes it easier to stay, I think, over here once you have like more of what holds you here. And meanwhile, I'm training Roz to be more country.
Yeah.
He's like the most city of city kids. And I'm realizing like, because our family's like, my mom was the only one to really like leave that side of the state for good. And so I was always raised in bigger cities, and then I would come for holidays and get-togethers. And my mom got a lot of shit for like being the one that left. And so I always felt like I was more city and then, but also country. And then I met my husband and I was like, you know, I'm pretty city suburban, and he is as city as it gets. And so it's put in perspective that I'm a lot more country than I think I am. And he's kind of learning how country he is, but he also like wears white shoes all the time. So every time he goes to Waterville, he's like, I cannot bring these shoes. It's kind of a problem.
I don't get it. Why? Because it's like dirty, like dirt?
Yeah, it's like a farm. Like there's like wheat fields and stuff everywhere you go.
And the wind blows a lot. So it's just like, even if you're carefully walking on the dirt, your shoes are going to get dirty. And Ross does not do dirty shoes. And yet he and Dave are like best friends. So he's kind of figuring out like what his life is going to look like in the future and becoming more country by the day, which is really funny. But Chandler, your business, I want to hear about breaking free from your former employer and that whole process of like setting it up and knowing it was time. What was that like for you?
So I worked for my old people for, gosh, like 3 years, I want to say. And, you know, I was doing it. Felt like I was doing more work for them that, like, I'm not kidding you. I was doing like 25 Brazilians, like back to back to back to back to back, and not getting paid for that, getting paid hourly. It was very draining, and it was kind of getting to a point where I didn't want to do it anymore. Like, I was like, I don't want to sugar anymore. I'm over it, but I don't really know what else to do, I guess. And actually, when we went to Hawaii and you actually were like, why don't you do your own thing? But at the time I was like, oh, that's just expensive. Like, I can't do that. And you were kind of like, yeah, you can. So when we got back from Hawaii, I actually like sat down and I like really mapped out like how much things would cost. I looked over my little non-compete that I signed, which that was a real struggle to figure out what to do. But yeah, we were kind of like, it's a lot of money. But I was kind of like, well, I'm just going to do it. And if it fails, it fails. And I'm never going to know until I try. So I actually got my tax return. I got a pretty fat tax return, which was cool. And I spent all of that, bought all my sugar, equipment, found a space, opened it up. And it's crazy. Like I made that tax return back in like 3 days. And I was like, whoa, I could actually do this. And yeah, so that's just kind of how I got started with that.
That's the fucking universe taking care of you too. Like you showed like, I'm investing in this, and then it comes back. Like not me just reading 1,000 books about this subject specifically, but I love that was your experience. And I didn't even know that I try to not be, our family's full of pushers. I try to not be as much of a genetically like predisposed pusher as we all are. And then I'm like, no, Chandler, I have a life plan for you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and it's crazy because I was like, oh, wow, that really wasn't as difficult of a setup as I thought it would be. But yeah, it's so much better. Like I can work whenever I want, make my own schedule. I can actually have time to like be home and hang out with my dogs, my husband, and I can go on trips. Like I don't have to do all of the stuff. And actually, it was really difficult because before I left my old work, I was trying to take time off for my wedding because all summer we were doing wedding stuff, I was getting married, honeymoon, and I told them, I'm like, hey, I have to take off a lot of time. And they were like, well, you don't have vacation time for that. And I'm like, okay, well, can I just take unpaid then? And they were basically like, well, that's going to affect your yearly review if you do that. And I'm just like, I'm getting married. Like, I don't care about, like, I don't know. I just felt I was giving so much time to them and they didn't give me any personal time. I don't know. It was too much. I couldn't handle it anymore. So it actually worked out. I managed to open up my business last summer and I was able to take all the time off and still do all the clients, pay my bills and all that. So it worked out.
Isn't that amazing? And I'm like triggered hearing that because I'm glad that it was like for a positive thing, that it was like they were being dicks about and you're like, no, fuck that. I'm getting married. I want to like make my own schedule. And for me, there was like so many negative like medical things where it was like, I'm having a baby and I don't know like what if I'm even allowed to like take time off prior to having this child. Like I worked until the day I gave birth because there was no other option. Or like them when my dad got cancer and just being like, okay, we'll figure out what kind of bereavement leave you get when that time comes. Like, but in the contract, it's 3 days and then it's unpaid or whatever. It's just like, I wrote this article for our column that we have in My Admin's News. It was just absurd. Like these conversations, like this is a life event that I'm having. I'm getting married and you're like, oh, it'll affect your review because I have a life outside of this. And that's like,
yeah, my review for like my 10-cent pay raise that I'm going to get. I'm like, I don't.
Or not.
No. Or not. Yeah. Even like when I had COVID, like last winter, and it was like when the tests were really hard to get. So my work was like, well, you can't come back unless you have a test that's negative. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't get one and I'm sick as a dog. And they're constantly texting me being like, are you better yet? Are you better yet? Like, we need you back here. And I'm like, I'm ill. Like, I can't, it's not my problem. Like so it's just stuff like that. And I was really sick of missing out. I missed out on so much like family stuff, like birthday parties, holidays, like, and even in the summer, like I do like to go home to my parents and go to the lake and do all that stuff. And I couldn't. Last 3 years, I couldn't do any of that. And I've spent like my life summers in Chelan, and the last 3 years I wasn't able to do that. And it was really difficult for me. So yeah, it's just, I'm in a much better place with my work now. So.
Are you guys going to Chelan this summer? I'll be there from July 23rd to July 27th. We're staying in Manson, but.
Oh, I mean, probably.
Stay sunnier over on the Manson side.
Yeah.
Yes,
we'll
it
be
does.
there.
Yes, we should go to wineries.
I'm in.
And what's cool about making your own schedule too is like the field that you're in is like a lot of people work on the weekends and you get to decide now. Like, I'm not trying to work every weekend. I want to be with my husband or my family or my niece, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I work 3 days a week now and I just shove everyone into my 3 days and I have 4-day weekends now. So it works out good for me. So
yeah. And now your goals for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shit, I need that. Oh my gosh. This is so cool to hear about that too, because I find that like I work better in condensed periods of time too. That's how I would make my schedules for school, where it's like, let's just get it done and then I can do whatever I want outside of that. And it makes you better for your clients. It makes your life better. It's like just so positive for everyone, like your husband, your family, like.
Yeah, it's weird. I was doing like the regular Monday through Friday, but then I was like, there's only 3 days where I have a bunch of clients, and those other 2, I maybe have like one client in the morning or like one client at night. So I'd be going all the way there for that one client. And I'm just like, it's kind of not worth my time. So, yeah, just condensing them all into 3 days it's been a game changer. So
I love that. Like,
yeah.
I'm only taking calls for 3 days a week. How great would that be?
Yeah. And then people can't bug me and be like, hey, can I come in this day, this day? I'm like, nope, I'm here this day, this day, this day. Here's your choices. So It's actually been way better. My phone isn't blowing up constantly with people trying to get in random spots. So
do you ever have people who come in and like want to fix, like you missed a hair?
Yes. And it'll be like one single hair. And it's like very blonde and you can't even see it. But yeah, it happens.
And then you fire them. You're like, I'm booked. Emily, you got time for those rapid fires?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It's okay. It's not that scary.
Okay.
My one laptop died, which is why I'm on the other laptop now and I have to log in. Sorry, listeners. But we're going to do rapid fires. Let's go a little bit backwards in order of stuff here, Whitney. Chandler, where can people find you on the line, on the webs?
You can find me at sugarco.seattle on Instagram, or you can find me at sugarcoseattle.com if you want to book an appointment. Or you can find me at Chandler Rude on Instagram too if you want my personal stuff.
RUUD.
RUUD.
It's Norwegian, everyone. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we're going to start the rapid fires, and you can choose to do these fast or choose to do these in whatever order you want, or not order, but like however you want. It doesn't have to be super fast. Anyway, what are you proudest of in your business right now?
Ooh, honestly, just the fact that I was able to do it and have the confidence to do it. Just opening up my business. I'm super proud about that.
Snaps. As you should be.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Like, that's just like, I can't be more proud of myself.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah. I'm like, that's the whole business is it's crazy.
The next question is, tell us about a book you read or a podcast you listened to that changed the way you're thinking about your life or your business.
Ooh, actually, it's funny you say that. I don't know if both of your friends there, but Whitney, your friend Mackenzie, actually listened to one of her episodes, and it was about kind of like showing your face more on Instagram. So I'm trying to do that more. I'm definitely trying to like put myself out there more,
and it's
make funny
hilarious.
videos.
Emily was texting
showing
me.
Mackenzie's amazing at like really instilling others or like helping others embrace their confidence, and she's just like amazing.
And she has the most symmetrical
really,
face. It's crazy.
Yes, I really want to meet her and just pick her brain, because I'm like, whoa, I don't even know. But like, even just doing that, I feel like I've gotten so many more books, so many more followers.
She does coaching.
Yeah, I know. I need to get on that.
Well, and
Yeah,
Chandler's
she's
going to
so
meet her
good.
at her event that's coming up too.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yes,
she's
that's
so
my-
good.
That's my goal this year, is to be more social and go to things like that. So that's on my list of things to do. Is I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
that.
and you came to vision boarding. That was so fun.
Yes, vision boarding was so fun. I'm gonna hang up my board soon that I made about my house. So but yeah, no, her podcast, love it. I actually listened to another couple, I can't remember what they are, but kind of the same thing, just like putting yourself out there more, showing your personality on your Instagram, because people like to see that, so you're more comfortable. Like, they're coming in being naked around me, like I want them to know I'm a chill person.
Oh,
so.
I was dying at your latest reel of the audio of like, why are you all being so weird around me because they shaved before coming?
Oh yes, the little snooky sound. Yes.
I didn't see that one, but my favorite one was like the "Ooh, got your butthole."
Oh yeah, I watched that. It made my whole life. Like, my little crow's feet are so bad because Roz and I just sat in the office back to back, like playing it, and the kids were like, "What is Chandler talking about buttholes?" And then I explained to them about like what you do and how you do it, and they were asking me all these questions like, on the butt or in the butt, in the cheeks, and I was like,
Everything.
I told Whitney to make that your ringtone for like when you call or text.
It should.
It'll be like, "Ooh,
Yes.
got your butthole."
Yeah.
So good. What now that we're talking about buttholes, what would your last meal be?
My last meal. Let's see. I just drank a lot of coffee. I had ice cream last night. That was my last meal.
Oh no, like if you were gonna die, what would your last meal be? Like,
she's on death row.
Oh my God. Let's see. Probably some sort of pasta dish. I'm a big pasta person.
I do like pasta.
She
Yes.
loves crab too. The one of like growing up, Chandler like couldn't pronounce crab, right? You know how little kids, they find out something's funny and then they latch onto it. She had this like joke for about a month of like, she was like 3, of she said crap instead of crab, and she's like, I love to eat crap, and she was like walking around like just cracking herself up because she's like getting a reaction out of everyone, until we're like, okay, we're done with this joke.
Okay, yes. Okay,
That's
so
so
change your
cute.
mind. Probably crab.
Crab.
With
is so
garlic,
good.
garlicky. Yes, with garlicky butter.
Yum. Crab is so good. That was like my pandemic thing that I learned how to do. I learned how to clean a crab.
Yeah, you should have seen her bridal
actually
shower,
kinda-
like the most epic like seafood tower.
What?
Yeah,
I
it
love
was pretty
seafood.
great.
The next question is, what is the best business purchase you've made under $100 in the past 6 months?
Business purchase. Gosh. I don't even know. I feel like nothing I buy is under $100.
You could cheat.
Okay. I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. Pass. I don't know.
Pass.
Well, what about the
Nobody's ever passed
What about
before.
the decor or anything that you've like bought? Because your space is so cute. It looks like anthro in there. Like, and you told me you got your mirrors at IKEA.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I did get, that's cheating though. I did get a dupe of the Anthropology, the beautiful floor mirror. I actually got that mirror at World Market. That was actually $250, but we'll say
Worth every
that
penny.
was my best purchase. Yeah. And now it's in my bedroom because I love it so much. So I don't have it at my work anymore.
You know what's funny is that you were saying pasta, and I was thinking about World Market because I just bought pasta sauce like from Italy from World Market, and it was so good and definitely worth the $6.
Yeah, they have the best shit.
Yes.
Plus all the
World
Haribo
Market's
candies ever. Not that I'm addicted to Haribos.
I didn't know that about you.
Twin snakes. Yeah. Everybody have some sweet and sour snakes that I got a huge bag of at Walmart in Wenatchee, and now my kids try to eat. And I was like, those are mine. the hairy bow. I caught Ross in the back. I was like, get the fuck out of my twin snakes.
Get out of my twin snakes. I like it. Chandler, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thanks
also
for
so
having
nice meeting you. IRL.
Yes. We're going to have to meet up more and drink wine.
For sure. For sure.
Have
I
some
will
champagne
actually
parties.
hit both of you up to see. I know I was looking on the map. Waterville's not that close to Chelan, but it's not that far, right?
It's like our grandparents do day trips all the time. Like it's an easy 40 minutes.
It's like, yeah, it's an easy trip.
Okay.
We can take you on the grand tour someday.
I would love it. I would love it. Because Chelan's like a new tradition for us. I think we started in like 2018 going to Chelan every year. So it's like new-ish, but we love it. It's like, I would love to own a house out there one day. That's like on my vision board.
Yes.
Lake house. But real estate's quite pricey there. So
yes.
Yeah, even our shack of a cabin that was built when our grandma was 8-ish and she's in her 90s now is easy $2 million.
oh my gosh.
It's like the last little shack. It's surrounded by mansions now. And then, yeah.
Wow. Love it though.
And they're probably
awesome.
embarrassed by us, but whatever. We're there. We're having fun. Our uncle.
Where are the original vibes?
Yeah. Yeah.
For the OG Chelan.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Coast, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.